I'm honored, and Deborah, the reason I pulled Bill in because he's much more attuned to a lot of this. This is my first year having anything to do with the legislature, so I'm going to yield a lot to him, and any comments that I hear at the center, I'm going to share. But Bill, I mean, like I said, I'm honored to be a part and even considered as we move forward.
Well,
Yeah.
and I appreciate being involved in this. I mean, it's an incredibly important issue, and it certainly it's one of the top concerns that older people have when we hear the kind of numbers that they're throwing around. It scares older adults. It scares me in terms of you go where the money is, and this is where the money is, but it can't be done casually. It can't be done without thought, without reason, and that's our primary concern. And I mean, I think the major message for elected officials is to be honest with us that I mean, the reality is we can't dodge this bullet, and that it's in some ways it's a math problem. Everything is predictable. Uh, we know what the life expectancy is. We know what the current earning potential is. We know when we're going to fall off the cliff if we do nothing. And the longer we wait, the harder the choices become. But so we have to do something. Uh, but the reality is we can't do it without pretty sophisticated thought about it and some sense of who are the winners and losers in this. There are a lot of older people, particularly in North Carolina, whose only source of income is Social Security in their retirement. We talk about the three-legged stool. I happen to be one who's been lucky. So I've got a pension plan from the state. I've got my own savings, and I've got Social Security on that stool. But there are a lot of people in North Carolina who don't have that opportunity, where the only leg to that stool is the Social Security benefit that they have, and they have the most to lose, and that concerns me.
Yeah. And a disproportionate number of those people are women,
Of course,
largely because they didn't have an opportunity to work outside of the home
that's right.
and have their own savings and have a pension, unless maybe they were a teacher or they worked for a hospital. And that really is their only retirement income. Also, people in our rural areas where the
Absolutely.
economy just does not have, jobs that have pensions, and people didn't earn that much money. And so that's what we've disproportionately heard from women who are terrified because this is their only source of income, and they may not be able to even rely on their children if they have children.
Right,
I
right.
think there's a misconception, even Deborah, about pensions, because even though I grew up in a time when there were pensions, the pensions were primarily in the public sector, not so
Right.
much some of the private sector. I mean,
Mhm.
women in my generation, if you weren't a teacher or, that's not demeaning at all, but I was in the corporate world, and it wasn't such a large corporation. I was never even offered a pension.
Right.
Wow.
And
So I think that, and even after my time, it got worse because some of the smaller companies stopped offering anything like that.
right.
So for some of us, we never had an opportunity for three legs.
That's right. And and
Yeah.
um, and where you were talking about being rural, you know, farming is a kind of labor that contributed least into Social Security.
Hmm.
Self-employment, and in lots of ways, it wasn't salary producing. It's a different kind of income, and the so the you could really a farmer who did reasonably well, but just because of the nature of the Social Security system, your benefit is very small. The other
Yes.
thing, which is a reality in North Carolina, uh, is that we're a right to work state. So our industrial wage rate ranks down there at the bottom, and the furniture industry, the textile industry, all of those they were hourly workers and they didn't get retirement. And
Mhm.
if you're an hourly worker your entire life, you put in minimum to Social Security and you're going to draw minimum out when you retire.
Yeah.
You have to leave the labor force.
Exactly. And you also have less of an opportunity if you were an hourly worker to maybe work longer because
Right.
usually if you were an hourly worker, it's something that required a lot of physical exertion.
Exactly.
And so you're in a different situation than maybe somebody was a doctor or a
Right.
lawyer or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Bill and I have talked about this a lot, and I've sponsored, of course, John Larson's Social Security bill that would shore up Social Security by taxing the highest wage earners on their Social Security. And this goes into what I was just saying. People who have been at the higher end also are more likely to live longer, right? And draw on their Social Security for a longer period of time. And so that's another issue that comes up. Um, Wanted to see whether you guys had been hearing from people who are having difficulty contacting Social Security.
Yes.
Have you been hearing that over the past few months? And could you share those stories with us? Because that affects the work that Nadia does every day with people emailing and calling and saying, I can't get access to my benefits even though I'm eligible. So tell us what you've been hearing.
Well, basically, Deborah, it's not a one or two, it's a 10, 15, or 20. They will hang on the line forever and ever and ever, and they can't get anything. They can't, there's no response. And most of those people are people that don't have access to computers. So they come in here for
Right.
us to help them try to get access to computers and try to be able to, you know, to get some information provided to them. In fact, there's even been more digital money for, we're giving away 25 laptops and trying to train them how to do it. I mean, because to meet resources, the navigation of Social Security, you just can't get anybody on the phone.
Mhm.
You know,
Well, yeah, we learned from former Secretary O'Malley that actually North Carolina, before this new administration, was doing more with less than most other states in the country, that they had gotten the backlog, really reduced. But now, with people being laid off and offices being closed, it's becoming even more difficult at a time when we're having more people sign up for Social Security every day, either just because of their age or because of disability. I don't know, Nady, if you want to share anything about what you've been hearing on the phones.
Yes, similarly, I've had, probably at least, I've had several calls, but probably at least five who've said they've had to wait for 4 hours on the
Right.
phone.
Oh my God.
And often will get disconnected and still not get the assistance that they need. Um, many are locked out of out of the website, or the website is down. Just, just a lot going on, where the seniors are unable to get the assistance that they need, especially with having to verify their identity by today. And if you can go to the post office to verify your identity, but if you don't have transportation, if you don't drive, that's not helpful to you either.
it's circular, Deborah. One thing leads to the next. And Nadia, you just point out the transportation. Well, yes, in Wake Forest, they just gracefully added more transportation. However, it's not limited to the aging population. Everybody can use it. So consequently, the aging population can't even get it, because,
Nobody's out.
it's being used by everybody.
Yeah.
So some of the service is there, and then, they don't know how to use their phones properly. And we're seeing more and more frustration. We call it the older olds,
Right.
and being able to get any assistance at all. I mean, like I said, it's a pyramid effect. There's Social Security issue, then there's a transportation issue, or the digital trying to get to that. And the one other thing that we've I was out there just a few minutes ago talking to somebody that their insurance, their Medicare insurance now is being affected because not only are pensions changing, but large corporations that had them on special policies now are taking it to a Medicare Advantage plan, which isn't as much coverage as
Right.
as a supplement or a Medigap policy was. So I don't mean to bring up other things, but one thing is leading to another thing, because if they're not getting enough money for Social Security, then how can they pay more with,
Right.
with insurance? I mean, it's just, this is what's happening.
Right. Well, and we're also seeing with the threats to cuts to Medicaid that people who are dual eligible are going to see cuts to their health care.
Oh, yes.
And, that also particularly affects the disabled population. And people don't understand who uses Medicaid, that it pays for nursing homes and that it pays for people with disabilities. And a lot of our elderly are dependent on Medicaid in addition to Medicare. And so we've got an administration right now that is frustrated that people are using programs that are part of our social safety net and that we should be proud we're providing. And as Bill said, we should be thinking about how we can sustain them, as opposed to having an administration that's trying to dissuade people from getting the benefits that they've earned.
Right. The social contract that we've had for years is being broken in terms of being able to, I mean, you're talking about people who have been a part of a system and have been contributing to a system. I mean, they have supported other generations. Now it's their turn.
100%. Yeah. And as I said, and Jenny and I were talking about this earlier, while many women may not have paid into Social Security because they were raising their children, they didn't have those opportunities to earn, and they contributed to our communities and to our country by raising their children. And they deserve to retire with dignity. No question about it.
Absolutely.
One of the things in that article that I wrote, and even the word navigation, but you can't navigate if you can't get a 1-800 phone number. I mean,
Right.
it's even simpler. I mean, navigation is a huge part, but if there are not people to answer the phone to answer your questions, it really is, I mean, it's irrelevant.
Right. Well,
there's the
we
assumption
are,
that we all have access. And that's simply not true. There is a digital divide depending on where you live. And that just doesn't connect with some of the folks who are doing all this. It's like this is a part of their wiring. I mean, this is what they do every day. They assume that everybody else can operate the same way, and the reality is they can't.
well, they need to do what my nieces and nephews were doing this weekend and spend a little bit more time with their grandparents,
Right.
and then have an appreciation for what they can do and what they can't do.
Which goes, Deborah, and this is nothing I've talked to Nadia about. I mean, the education part, there's some schools, we had 4 schools from Wake Forest that came here. They've actually asked me, I'm going to start the first curriculum in the Wake High School here. So we got 4 lessons lined up, because I think that's really, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, when you and I have talked about this, you even came to Wendell
Yep.
to our town hall and talked about how important it is to teach the generation that's now, devising systems about what every generation is going to need in order to be able to access their benefits and be a good citizen. There's absolutely no question about that. Well, I'd like to ask for some advice from you, and then maybe, I don't know if Nadia has any advice she wants to get from you, but we really want to highlight this issue. We have been, as Jenny knows, and Bill too, we have been having roundtables on this. We've been visiting our senior centers, but we want to elevate it. And one thing we're thinking about is doing a telephone town hall. So anybody can do it just from their telephone. They don't have to physically come to a town hall, because we know if we do something on Social Security, there are going to be a lot of seniors who don't want to drive at night or can't drive at night. Do you think that that's a good idea? If we advertise, you can call this telephone number and be connected, and we'll even call you if you sign up. We'll call you. If you tell us what telephone number to call, we'll call you when the town hall starts. Do you think that's a good idea?
I think it's a better idea than having a physical town hall meeting. I agree with you. There's certain kinds of people who will come to a town hall meeting like that, but that's not who you want to hear from.
Mm-mm.
I mean, you hear from those people all the time. You need to figure out a way, and we need to figure out a way to get other people who this is a concern for them to have the opportunity to hear and give feedback. And I think probably the telephone is about as good as you're going to get.
Okay. Well, if you have other ideas, let us know, because we're starting to set these up, around the district. And we know that we want to go back to Wake Forest. We've been there a couple of times to Jenny's,
Right.
her place, her special place. But we want to make sure that we move around the district in a way that serves people the best and gets their questions answered and lets them participate.
So let me understand. So your telephone thing, y'all are just going to be where you are, and there's going to be like a 1-800 number, and you're going to have a bunch of people answering the phone at the same time. Is that simply put kind of what we're looking at?
Well, it happens in two different ways. We advertise that we're going to have the town hall. So we do that on social media and Facebook and even on the evening news, and you can sign up for it. But we also just call people, randomly call people. We don't cherry pick them. We just call them at the time of the town hall and say, hey, there's a town hall on Social Security right now. So for people who might not be engaged, something is coming directly to them if they pick up the telephone, and we'll say, we're about to have a town hall on Social Security. Press 1 if you want to stay on the line, and then you can ask questions. And so we found the last time we did that, it wasn't on Social Security, it was on Medicaid and the schools. But we did that. 15,000 people stayed on the line.
Wow.
And most of them would have never called us or called in. They just, because we called them,
Right.
they got the opportunity. And I don't want to spend our whole time talking about it, but I did, since both of you, interact with people. If you have ideas, you can let Nadia and Sam and my office know, because we want to do things in the most user-friendly way. It's too important right now for us to miss out on input from our constituents.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that response that you got. The reason I'm surprised is I do this, and most of the people I know who do this, if I get a call from a number I don't know, I don't answer it.
Yeah.
So and I know I've actually done some phone banking,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and I've been it's like I will go an hour before I can get somebody to answer the phone.
Well,
But
this is
leaving
a
a
new
message with a
phenomenon.
callback number works.
Yeah, it's a new phenomenon, Bill, because
Yeah,
in the past we never had that many people.
sure,
And so people now are, I think, a little bit more engaged. But again, I don't want to take our whole time
sure.
talking about
Right.
this. I want to, if there are other things that you think Nadia needs to know for the people she interacts with, or I need to know, you know, please share. And Nadia, if you have any questions or anything you want to share, that would be great too.
I would just ask, so of course we do a lot with social media and considering the age group. What do you think that's, are the seniors on social media?
Some are, some aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm thinking not just about when we have a town hall meeting, but
yeah.
if there are changes with Social Security, information we need to get out about Social Security, what do you think is the best way to do that?
I think more seniors are on Facebook than other forms of social media. I
Okay.
don't know, can you do a Facebook Live event?
Yes. When
Yeah,
we do the town hall, we do it as Facebook Live.
right, right.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to buy into Zuckerberg, but
My mom loves Facebook.
well, that's what we started with. I mean, I got on it so I can have pictures of my grandchildren, and then my son won't play anymore. It's like he got off it for those reasons.
If there's a number, I'm, not going back to the phone thing. I mean, I like the phone thing because
I
people
do
don't have
too.
to access other implementations, but if we could have your the phone number that's a call in or whatever, and help
Mhm.
you get that out there, and maybe do a Facebook Live post about that being out
We
there,
could do that too. That's
we
right.
we could
That's
certainly
right.
push that. Because like I support what Bill said. Half of the people, if I don't use the phone number they're used to me calling them on, if I by chance pick up my personal phone by mistake, they ain't answering the phone. They
Mhm.
don't. So I really think that if you wanted to write something and we could get it out there, and we could put it in our constant contact, which goes out every week. Um, we could talk about at least now. We're also starting to reach like Youngsville area, but that's not you, right? You're not Youngsville.
Right. But that's okay.
So
We're happy to help
I'm just thinking
wherever.
out loud. Bill, you can help direct me in
Well,
districts
you've got the
that I,
Senior Center Network too. It's not
yeah,
just
the
you.
Senior Center
You can
Network.
do the whole thing, right?
Yeah, we could do that. And I think if they identified that number and then you did a live FaceTime live or whatever,
Mhm.
predicating it, and then I like the call bank, but it's just a matter of getting them to have faith in that, I see that
Yeah.
number. Um,
Yeah.
whatever, Nadia, you guys, whatever we can do to help, we'll certainly, we have the bandwidth to push about as anybody, I think any senior center out there.
Well, what we'll do is Sam is listening to all this because he helps organize it. And so he'll take all of this back to our team and we will be back in touch with you. And we can even consult with you about the best time of day because seniors might prefer to do it during the day as
Oh,
opposed
yes.
to in the evening. We've been doing it at 8 o'clock at night. Well, that might be too late for our senior population. It might be better to do it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever time. So you are now our consultants.
Well, thank you. The other thing I would suggest is, here I go. The other thing I would suggest is make a list of questions that are important to you about it.
Yeah.
We know what we hear. We end up, or I end up here, and I can't get in. I can't get this. I can't. But really, if ahead of time they can be prepared to answer and ask them the things you want to know specifically about Social Security. That's the reason I wanted to pull Bill in. I'm not a Social Security specialist at all. So what are those key things that will help you the most? you know, about Social Security? What do you want to know about us besides that we think it's ridiculous? I mean, because everybody can chime in on that one. So you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Some specific points.
That's great. Well, we're going to put it together, and we'll be in touch with you. And it may be Sam who's in touch with you or Nadia, but we'll be in touch with you about what you think would be best. And then, of course, just like in this conversation, we'll have the policy aspect. You know, how do we keep Social Security going and be able to have it for our lifetimes and for future generations. But then just the practical, how do you get signed up? How do you get in touch with people? Because I think not everybody cares as much about the policy. They're much more interested in how do I get the services that I need, right?
And address rumors. I mean,
Right,
address
exactly.
the rumors.
Yeah.